Welcome to Photonics in Focus, the podcast where industry leaders and innovators share insights into the latest advancements in integrated photonics technology. Join us as we explore this emerging technology and how it's transforming industries and driving new possibilities, and how AIM Photonics is at the forefront of this revolution. Tune in to stay ahead of the curve in the rapidly evolving world of photonics. In this episode, Nathan Lin, AIM Photonics Director of Outreach, sits down with Kevin McComber, the founder and executive director of the Spark Photonics Foundation. The foundation is dedicated to inspiring young minds through hands-on STEM education that connect K-12 students to real-world applications in photonics, semiconductors, and advanced manufacturing. Kevin shares how his passion for math and his entrepreneurial drive not only shaped his career in integrated photonics, but also fueled his mission to spark curiosity and problem-solving skills in students as young as third grade through the innovative programs that make photonics accessible and exciting.
I'm with Kevin McComber from Spark Photonics today. Excited to talk to you about your journey, Kevin.
Me too. Thanks, Nathan.
So I'm just going straight to it. How do you get into integrated photonics or silicon photonics?
I have to back up a little bit in my career trajectory to when I was in third grade. I realized I really liked math. I would actually ask my parents for math workbooks that I could just do outside of school. And then by about seventh grade, a teacher told me, if you really like math, you should be an engineer. And if you want to be an engineer, you should probably go to MIT. So since seventh grade, I had in my mind, I really want to go to MIT. Eighth grade, I also remember filling out a career worksheet. What do you want to do when you grow up? And I said, be an entrepreneur. And MIT is a very entrepreneurial spirit. So I pretty much solidified I wanted to go there. Fast forward to undergrad, I took a class in material science and engineering about fab of microelectronics. Really liked working with my hands. That was the most applied class I had taken. So getting into grad school, I knew I wanted to work in the fab. And the professor that I ended up with, Professor Kim Kimmerling at MIT, had a UHV CVD reactor doing germanium deposition for integrated photonics. So I can't say it was a master plan to get it into integrated photonics. I just like getting stuff done, and that's where it happened to take me.
So you started integrated photonics in grad school.
That's right. That's right. Yeah.
And what kind of project were you doing?
Yeah, I was working on chemical vapor deposition of germanium on amorphous silicon. So it's silicon that does not have a crystalline structure. And we were trying to make high quality germanium crystalline material on top of this amorphous structure, which is very challenging at low temperature as well for back end processing. So my project was to grow this high quality germanium film from a very low quality initial seed layer. It was challenging, but very rewarding in the end.
And that's different from the commercial germanium.
Yes.
Because of the structure.
Yes, yeah. So epitaxy grows from the silicon lattice underneath and replicates that into the germanium. We started with no lattice, and then we're trying to grow high quality crystalline germanium film on top of that. So we had to play some tricks with geometry and with photolithography to make that happen. It took a while to figure out, and that's why it's a PhD. You kind of keep banging your head against the wall.
And while you were there, were you engaging in entrepreneurial event? Because that's kind of on your worksheet or roadmap.
Right. Yeah, no, I was, but not at all in tech. I got very deep into fine distilled spirits, and I was leading tastings of single malt Scotch whiskey for MIT alumni.
Nice.
So that was actually my kind of entrepreneurial thing outside of running the CVD reactor. But I think maybe fast forward now, we're doing design services at Spark. Right. I was a fab person. After MIT, I went to work at the fab at Intel, high volume manufacturing CMOS in Arizona, loved it, but had really no clue about how to do design. So when I started Spark, and we can talk a little bit more about how that happened, really didn't have design experience. And so I was looking for other people to try to do the design for us. And that's where we realized there's a lack of talent, a lack of even conversation around not just integrated photonics, but photonics and semiconductors and even advanced manufacturing at the kind of the top of the talent funnel, which is K-12. And so that's where my co-founder, Alan, and I realized we could make a big difference in the industry if we can start getting more people just talking about this with young students and getting them exposed so that later on, hopefully they have some idea about integrated photonics, unlike those of us who just happen to fall into it.
Did you plan on doing Spark Foundation while you're in grad school, or was it something that came up afterwards?
Yeah, I had no intentions of being in integrated photonics after graduating from grad school, actually. I went to Intel, high volume, loved the job there. Then for family reasons, we moved back to the Boston area, and I took some roles in management consulting and financial services. And then my PhD advisor, Kim Kimmerling, recruited me back to MIT to be on staff with AIM, what was at the time called AIM Photonics Academy, or AIM Academy, to do education and workforce development in integrated photonics. But that was primarily targeted at incumbent workforce and graduate students and maybe a little bit of undergrad. So we realized in starting Spark that population is very small. And so we're kind of fighting over this tiny part of the funnel. And if we can get more people in the beginning to want to be part of that, we can really increase that output of the funnal.
So in photonics workforce development kind of led you to the Spark Foundation.
Yes, very much so. When Al and I were starting Spark as a design services company, right? I had no experience. Al was kind of somebody who wanted to get PIC design done, but also didn't have design experience. So we were trying to find folks to do design, and that's where we realized there's a lack of talent. At the same time, there was a DoD solicitation to transfer some project-based learning programming that was happening in electronics into other advanced manufacturing technologies. And Al and I thought this really should happen in integrated photonics, but it wasn't really in AIM's wheelhouse to do K-12. So we started the Spark Photonics Foundation at the same time as starting Spark Photonics Design, our commercial design services company, specifically to put in a bid to be a sub-awardee on that grant. And luckily we received it. So, I have AIM to thank for starting, really giving us the impetus to start design services. And then the DoD, again, to thank for that award, starting the Spark Photonics Foundation. Now it's actually, up and running. It's kind of parallel entities that are both working very well together and also doing their own thing.
So for Spark, there's a design service division that is for profit and there's a nonprofit.
That's right. It's two legal entities. So we call it, as an umbrella organization, Spark Photonics, but it's actually two separate companies, and I'm day-to-day in both of them.
You hop in 50% of the time and hop out.
I don't know if I'd say 50%. Is more as needed on both sides. And sometimes both sides are as needed. So I don't know that I would recommend parallel entrepreneurship. It's, there's serial entrepreneurship where you start one business after another, but parallel where you start two or more at the same time is a little bit of a stressful lifestyle sometimes. So I'm not sure it's recommended, but it seems like what was needed. And when we were starting Spark, since I didn't have design experience, I was going around asking people in the AIM ecosystem, like, do you want to do this with your company? Or, Professor X, could you do this? Could you start a company in this? And kind of got a no thanks from everyone. So it felt like it was something that needed to happen and no one else was going to do it. So Al and I took up the mantle. Luckily, it's still running.
I was curious about the K-12 section. What kind of events or outreach do you do to help these kids get inspired and have this?
Yeah, we started with our flagship program, which is called Spark Alpha. So this is the program that was templatized from an electronics program that was already running for a number of years, and we made it specific to integrated photonics. This is a project-based learning program run in classrooms. Students in teams of 3 to 5 go through 4 stages of the program. The first stage, they come up with a problem that's important to them and quantify that problem's impact on the world. The second stage, they conceptualize, they think up a photonics-based hardware product to address that problem. And then the third stage, they come up with a business plan to launch and sell that product at a profit. And then the final stage, they do a live pitch to a panel of judges and their peers. They also take in-person or virtual field trips, typically, to education and industry partners to see what education and career pathways are like out there in the field. We really kind of get them experiential learning opportunities that show them why they're learning the things they're learning in their school. So this program overlays existing STEM curriculum, and we've just started rolling out a train the teacher modality. So now we're training K-12 teachers to run our program. We give them all the digital materials, all the slides, the videos, the student workbook, the teacher guide. And so that also allows them to tailor it to their students' needs in the classroom way better than we can. So we're very excited to now be expanding outside the confines of Massachusetts, where we had this test bed, and we're going to be launching in Montana this fall as our first expansion state. I'm very excited about that.
for the listener out there, if they want to get involved or ask Spark to come over and help out their kids, get some experience, some exposure to it, how would they do that?
Yeah, you can just reach out to us directly. We are very active on social media, so get in touch that way, or through our intake email, info@sparkphotonics.org. We monitor that, and we'll be happy to get in touch. We find the best way to engage is if we can speak directly with someone in the middle school or high school that we'd be likely to run with, or the district level. This is typically a superintendent, a STEM coordinator, a principal, or even a teacher, because they're the ones that really need to raise their hands and say, this is something we want. We want to refresh our curriculum. We want something that has a strong 21st century jobs aspect to it. And we think Spark Alpha is that program. We have a couple more in the pipeline. Spark Beta, not super creative with the naming, that gets students introduced more deeply to photonics and semiconductors, and then Python programming, which is what we actually use on our design side to do all of our chip design and layout. And then students do a mock chip design and layout at the end of that program. And then we'll be coming out with another one where they actually get into commercial grade software to do a real layout of a chip that could be fabricated at a place like AIM Photonics. And this is all high school level, by the way. So we're really trying to make this accessible to literally everybody, especially through a distributed model where we can reach rural populations, we can reach urban populations anywhere across the country.
So in your mind, how can public or AIM Photonics best help with your next steps to grow the domestic ecosystem for integrated photonics? Question.
Yeah, it is. Something that we feel very passionate about is reaching students when they're young. And I think that this is something that is still a conversation that it's something that we're advocating for very strongly. The data show from literature, as well as our anecdotal experience, that students are making decisions about whether to pursue STEM education career pathways as early as eighth grade. Sorry, I should say as late as eighth grade. So they're making those decisions up to eighth grade. And once you're through eighth grade, you're kind of on a pathway. You have to choose high school classes. So we're especially trying to address students in eighth grade and younger. We've gone as early as fifth grade now. And we're trying to go even earlier than that. That's also where we see a huge disparity in males versus females pursuing these careers. So addressing girls in eighth grade and younger is really a passion of ours. And I think that that's a conversation we just need to be having more often about how we address those populations that early. It's a very long-term play, and I think it's a challenging argument sometimes, especially to make the industry who wants to fill this requisition we have open like now or yesterday. And you're saying, okay, wait 10 years for someone, but it's an investment we need to make because that's how we're really going to get ahead of the curve on this thing. So I'd say that's where we could use the most help is shifting the tide and thinking about those students as pipelines for not only integrated photonics, but STEM at large.
Thanks for joining us on Photonics in Focus. Be sure to subscribe and stay tuned for more deep dives into the latest advancements with industry experts throughout the integrated photonics ecosystem. For more information about AIM Photonics and the work we're doing to advance the integrated photonics industry in the United States, please visit our website at aimphotonics.com.